Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films and Cloud City Casino, a Star Wars gaming podcast, both of which are at StarWarsReport.com, continuing to bring you looks at X-Wing 2nd Edition products as they are released. This is the Huge Ship Conversion Kit. We looked at the Searock or Croc, we've looked at the Tantive 4 or Tantive 4, depending on how you want to say it. Now we're looking at the thing that lets you play with your 1st Edition components in the 2nd Edition. And this is important because they just canceled the Imperial Raider 2nd Edition version. So if you want to play with the Imperial Raider, or some of the other ships that just haven't been released yet that theoretically are still going to be, then yeah, you're going to need the conversion kit. So the conversion kit runs $30. You got your breakdown there of components and, a few bits about rules, but for the most part, your rules are going to be in that Huge Ship rulebook, which also comes with the Tantive 4 and the Croc. You've got 2 bases here for the huge ships and the 4 necessary pegs to go with them, the stands. And then you do have one of those new movement tools, which is used specifically for these new ships. This maneuver tool thing here that's meant to match the way that those upgraded components look that you could have gotten recently, rather than being cardboard. You use that prong there, that kind of hook, with a little indentation here when you're banking and whatnot. It's a nice way of handling the movement for these huge ships. But speaking of huge ships, let's take a look at the ship tokens to see what kinds are available. So our ship tokens are these larger new ones. There's only one version of the ship available to each faction, but each one is available to 2 factions per ship. So, for the CR-90 Corellian Corvette, we have the Alderaanian Guard for the Rebel Alliance, but the Republic Judiciary for the Galactic Republic. For the Croc, or Searock, whatever you want to call it, we have the Separatist Privateers and Syndicate Smugglers, with the Privateers being for the Separatists, Syndicate Smugglers being for scum and villainy. Then for our Imperial Raider, we have the Outer Rim Patrol for the Empire, but then the First Order Collaborators for, obviously, the First Order. Then for our GR-75 Medium Transport, we have the Echo Base Evacuees for the Rebels, and New Republic Volunteers for the Resistance. And then finally, for the Gozanti, Outer Rim Garrison for the Empire, First Order Sympathizers for obviously the First Order, and for each faction's configuration of that particular huge ship, there is 1 quick build card, which means 2 for each ship. Now, since you're only expected to field 2 of these at a time, because that's all the bases they've given you, you have 2 resource trackers, and then of course we have our maneuver dials for each of those different possible factions for each of the 5 ships. But you'll notice here that it's not an even distribution at all. So we have 2 that could be used for the Rebels, right? We have only 1 that could be used for scum and villainy. 2 for the Empire, 2 for the First Order, but then 1 each also down here on the bottom for the Republic, the Separatists, and the Resistance. Token-wise, there's really not a ton. We've got our turret arc indicators here for the huge ships. We've got the double arc indicator, 1 of each. Again, they are gray on one side, white on the other. And then we've got the gray and white on either side versions for the single turret, 4 of those. Each of those has one of those turret mount markers to go with it, indicating the type, either double or single, and then the color, black, which goes with the gray, or white, which obviously goes with the white. We have our proof of purchase, of course. We have our dial ID tokens, and yes, the ones for the Imperial Raider and the Corellian Corvette are just them on either side, rather than that weird thing we saw with the Corellian Corvette expansion pack, where it has the Corvette for the Rebels on one side, but then the Imperial Raider Corvette on the other side, which is a bit odd. We had our 2 proximity mines here, a couple of cargo drift tokens there for obstacles. ID tokens, we have a set of 5 for number 7, a set of 5 for number 8. Lock tokens, a set of 3 for number 7, a set of 3 for number 8. Big shock there. 2 disarm tokens, 2 calculate, 2 reinforce, 2 evade, 3 jam, and 4 ion. Then my goodness, it's a lot of upgrade cards. We do have a damage deck, by the way. The huge ships now use this single damage deck that has 2 different levels on it, sort of the regular damage if you flip it over, but also a precision shot type of damage if you flip it over and somebody hits you in a very specific way. Then we got tons and tons of upgrades here. We'll hold the hard points for a moment because I want to show you both sides of those, because I couldn't do that with the other 2 ships we've actually looked at so far from the huge ships. So for sensors, we have fire control system. For cargo, we have 2 each of boosted scanners to banner reserves, optimized power core, and adaptive shields. For cannons, we just have heavy laser cannon. For devices, only proximity mines. Then we have quite a few titles here. For the CR-90 Corellian Corvettes, we have Dodonna's Pride, Jaina's Light, Liberator, Tentative E4, and Thunderstrike. GR-75 medium transport, not quite as many. The Bright Hope, the Luminous, and the Quantum Storm. Now you notice here that even though you can use these for multiple factions, it's only Rebels for the transport here, and it's only Rebels for the Corvette. We jump over to the Imperial Raider, we have the Assailer, the Corvus, of course from Battlefront 2, the Impetuous, and the Instigator. All Imperial, none for the First Order. For the Gazanti, we have the Blood Crow, the Requiem, and the Suppressor, also all Imperial. For the Gazanti, all Imperial too, the Blood Crow, the Requiem, the Suppressor, and the Vector. For the Croc, all Scum, Merchant One, Broken Horn, and Insatiable Wart. So, if you're playing with the other faction, too bad, no titles for you at this point. Only one type of configuration card, that's the Corsair refit, and we get 2 copies of that. Then for Gunners, we get 2 copies each of Hotshot Gunner and Agile Gunner. For crew members, we have Tauren Farr, Novice Technician, and Seasoned Navigator. We only have the Dorsal Turret, but we have 2 copies of it for turrets. For teams, we have 2 copies each of Bombardment Specialists, Comms Team, Damage Control Team, Gunnery Specialists, IGRM Droids, Ordnance Team, and Sensor Experts. For missiles, we have a pair each of Cluster Missiles and Concussion Missiles. For torpedoes, just a pair of Advanced Proton Torpedoes. And then for the command crew, we have Admiral Ozzel as Morrigan, Captain Nita, Carlos Riken, Jan Dodonna, Ramus Antilles, Strategic Commander, and Stalwart Captain. Then lastly, we have our hardpoint upgrades, and this is one of the things I didn't get to show you when looking at the actual ship expansion packs. That is that each of these has 2 different sides to it, a regular and an offline version. And since we have 2 copies of each one, I can actually show you each of those this time. So we have our Turbo Laser Battery, Targeting Battery, Point Defense Battery, Ordnance Tubes, and Ion Cannon Battery. And there you have it, folks, all the contents of the huge ship conversion kit. If you have any of those previous 5 ships from First Edition, this would give you an opportunity to play with them in Second Edition. Again, though, just note that each one can be used for 2 different factions, and you'll need to know which factions are available to you if you're planning on playing with just one faction rather than having ships available for all. This table here on the back breaks it down for you. So for $30, bring those ships into Second Edition, because some of them, like the Imperial Raider, apparently won't be getting a Second Edition release. You'll have to use a First Edition and the conversion kit.